Good evening, good people. How are you all doing? I hope you all had a good, productive day, a positive filled day today. Come on in the room. I am ready to get this started. So last week, Lena and Melbu shut it down. So this is a continuation from that episode, Relationships After the Pain. So for this live podcast episode, we'll be talking about relationships part dose from a man's perspective. This is going to be so good. So let me bring my guest on screen. Hey, Pastor.
Good evening, good people. How's everybody doing?
Good. So tonight I have with me our very own Pastor Lawrence Knighton of St. James Baptist Church out in Baconton, Georgia. He is the man of all things. Not only is he a pastor, a published author, an encourager, a motivational speaker, and an enlightenment specialist. So, how are you doing today, Pastor?
I am actually doing exceptionally well. Blessed to be on this podcast, and I'm ready to get this party started, right?
All right.
Okay.
Hey, thank you for your yes. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a busy man to join me on my live podcast here. And I just want to thank you. This is a well needed conversation, and we're just going to get right in so we can break it down and help the people.
Let's
So
have them.
now, as you would say, we are not experts, we are just experienced. So, on that disclaimer, we'll get started now. If you follow me, you know what's next. I got to give you a definition. So, relationship is defined as the way two or more people are connected, the state of being connected, or the way in which two or more people regard and behave towards each other. Now, like I said on last week's episode, the first thing that needs to be understood is that you are in a relationship, that both people are aware and they agree that they're in a relationship or in a committed relationship. So, Pastor, in dating, and it looks different for everybody, what should we as women, what should we look for? What should we be asking on the first few dates?
Oh, wow. That's an excellent question. And truthfully, these past 5 years, I literally have changed the questions that I feel should be answered from a woman's perspective, simply because when you think about the most formative years of a person's life, which is that 0 to 5 year old age range, what I'm discovering is that most men, if not all, and I'm not saying all as in every last one, but a good majority of men had childhood years that were not the best. And so when you grow up with dysfunction or you grow up with trauma, grow up without a father, it makes it extremely difficult for a man sometimes to navigate through life. And again, I'm not saying for all men. So some of the questions that I would tell women to ask now, especially in this climate in which we're living, is tell me about your childhood. How was your childhood? How was your relationship with your dad? How was your relationship with your mom? And even asking about the I love yous and all those things that I talked about even in the Bible study, because if you grew up not hearing I love you, for most men, it's going to be extremely difficult for them to express their love as they want to, because they just didn't grow up with it. And so one of the questions that I would definitely tell women to ask men is, let's talk about your childhood. Because what you got to understand with most men, I'm only going to use that most men most of the night, is that most men want women to do all the talking. And the reason why they want the women to do all the talking, so they can take mental notes on how I can do what she likes done so I can get what I want to get, which is the candy.
Right.
AKA sex.
Right.
And so you ain't getting the pastor tonight, no, you getting the man. so let's get that disclaimer out there first and foremost.
Right. So what should men be asking?
I think men should be asking the same type of questions, truthfully. And because, again, I am really learning that traumatic experiences as it relates to relationships these days, as it relates to individuals, rather, concerning relationships, it's critical. I mean, when I tell you it's critical, it's very critical because, to give you a good example of that, I was actually talking to this couple one night, and it got to a point where, she don't want me to touch her sometimes, and, just that type of thing. And so I asked her a question. I said, can I ask you a really straightforward question? Because that's just how I am. And she said, yeah. And so, because when I hear a woman say, or hear a man say, well, sometimes she don't want me to touch her, there's an underlying element to that. And the underlying element to that for me was this question: have you ever been touched or molested as a child? She started crying.
Wow.
And listen, and she had never told her husband. So now he's having to deal with the residue of her past hurt because she never expressed what went on in her childhood.
Right. So he couldn't know why she was behaving that way.
He didn't know it.
But and that's why you have these conversations in the beginning, like what you said, ask about your childhood or traumas and stuff like that. So we won't be like, okay, wondering, did we do something? Why you behaving this way? So that communication is definitely needed.
Yeah, and not only that, though, Nicole, you think about this, right? Most men never take responsibility for a relationship going sour. Most men just won't.
Hello.
And the truth of the matter is, well, what happened? Well, she was so-and-so. She was so-and-so. Well, so you're telling me that you as a man didn't have nothing to do with anything that went wrong? And most times men will admit once they, go down the road and realize, man, that was a nice girl I had. I should have never messed up like that. When they find out you're engaged or you're about to be married, then they call apologizing. I'm sorry for what I did.
Don't circle back. Okay, so we're in the beginning stages of dating, and when people date in the beginning, they're not really who they are. They have a representative, is what they bring to the table, and it starts off strong, and then usually, once the relationship is established, then everything that they were doing stops. The texting, the dates, the calling, the random gifts, the spontaneous things, all of that tapers off and sometimes stops altogether. And that usually causes a break in the relationship. So talk to us about that. Why do you think that happens so often and so much more with men doing it? Why the change up?
Nicole, men were born with a hunting spirit.
Right. I've heard that.
I need somebody to write that in the chat if y'all are chatting. Men are born with a hunting spirit. So watch this. So what happens is when a man meets a woman, here's what you got to first understand. Men are visual. If a man sees a woman, he already is saying to himself his reason why I want to say something to her. And most times it's hips, lips, and thighs and all that stuff. Men are visual. They're not going to talk. Listen, a man is not meeting a woman and saying, oh, I wonder how intellectual she is. No, he's looking at the outward.
Right.
And so in the initial phases, as I say in my book, we always bring a representative, meaning someone who we want them to think we are. And what ends up happening is we buy into the representative and ignore the real. So what ends up happening is this right here. So what a man is doing, he's actually putting together all of his information, all of his data, because really, when you start talking about dating is simply a time to collect data. But what ends up happening is in that data collecting phase, women, for the most part, if I can just be honest with you, they end up giving away the sex. And so after a man gets the sex a few times, the text messages are not going to be as frequent. The calls are not going to be as frequent. The checking on you is not going to be as frequent because he's gotten what he's wanted because of that hunting spirit that's in him. So for instance, watch this. So a man can go fishing, throw a hook out there in the water all day long and stay out there until he watch this, gets a bite. Even if he said, I got to get at least one bite before I leave here. Or he can go sit in a deer stand all day long and wait for a deer to come by, because that's the hunting spirit in us. But catch this. So if you tell a man, especially after he's gotten what he wanted, come on, go to the mall with me. I'm only going to be there for about 2 or 3 hours. There's no excitement in that.
He had no interest in that.
There's no catch. He's already got his catch.
Wow.
Okay.
But I mean, it's true, and it happens. It happened to me. I mean, if we gonna tell the truth, and it happens a lot. Like we do, and I remember Price talked about that on the first about love and relationships, and that was one of the things that he sees that women make the mistake of. They give the sex up too early, and then we end up getting burned. You know, sometimes literally, but
Oh, I caught that.
somebody ain't gonna. But okay, so now there's no real timeline on what you can call a relationship. Like sometimes you assume you're in one, sometimes it's not made clear because most men or some men are not very direct about it. So what would you, it's a 3-part question. So what do men look for to be sure of before they say, I'm going to agree to partner with you or to commit to you in a relationship? What has to happen in his mind for a man to say, I'm serious? We ain't talking about the men in the streets, but a serious man, like, okay, I'm a partner with this person. I'm a date her exclusively. I'm gonna be committed to her. What happens? What has to happen first?
Wow, that's an amazing question. And I'm gonna have to ponder that for a second, because the truth of the matter is, when you say you're not talking about a man in the street, I mean, that's in itself is different, because a man in the street ain't gonna be no different than a man in the church for the most part. And I'm just being as honest as I can. I mean, just because a man is in the street and a man is in the church, they all got the same motive for the most part, unless a man is like engulfed in God. You know, now if a man is engulfed in God and has a relationship where he's honoring God, loving God, and I'm not talking about play, I'm just talking about going to church, you know, I'm talking about somebody who's really into God, they're not going to have the same mindset as a person who, how can I say it, who's just out here per se. So for instance, to answer your question, let me just get to the question. To answer the question, you said, what is a man looking for? Any man of substance, let's start right there, is going to want somebody who can identify with him intellectually, somebody he can build with, somebody who also brings something to the table. Because when God got ready to bring Eve to Adam, Adam had a plan. And a man with a plan has to have a woman that can help him with his plan.
Right. That they fit together.
Yes. So there has to be some cohesion. They have to have some things in common. For instance, you can't have a person who's an outgoing person. This was one of the problems that I had in a prior marriage. I know I was always an outgoing sort of entrepreneurial mind. And so for me, I had nice people. They were very nice, but they had no get up and go. They had no ambition. So I tried to hook up with somebody who had no ambition when I knew that was the opposite of who I was. So here's the catch, because most times what we do, we overlook the red flags in relationships. We overlook them. We see them, but you know, we overlook them and we just keep going past it because we're thinking that we can change a person. But for a man to commit, he's going to have a real safe space. He's going to have a person that he feels that he can get extremely vulnerable with, meaning somebody who can hold his secrets, somebody who can, you know, just someone he really has full confidence in. And the truth of the matter is, it's extremely difficult for a brother to get to that point in a few months. You know, you got some men who, you know, who meet a person and they're like, that's my wife. God bless them. But that's far few and in between.
Well, yeah, I've never experienced that. So yeah. But when you're thinking about timeline and commitment, and because I wholeheartedly believe that I don't think it takes that long years for a man to commit. But because I believe a man knows who he wants.
No question.
And I believe a man knows who he wants to partner with versus who he just dates. And there is a difference. So for us, they might be good with the gift of gab, and we believe in everything they're saying. So outside of them, sometimes they lie about what they want. And so what do we look for, women? What do we look for to assure ourselves? Okay, he ain't lying. He might be consistent, and then he go to inconsistent, and he go back. So what do we need to look for to be sure? Okay, either I'm wasting my time or.
Man, that's another. You got some great questions, and let me let everybody know up front. I don't know. I didn't know any of these questions she was going to ask me. So, but to answer that question, to say what do we look for?
Yeah.
Here's the real, honest to God truth that I can tell you. There is a reason why, and I'm learning this as we go through life. There's a reason why God designed marriage to be sex to be between married folk. And I got to explain this because the thing about it, you say, well, what should we look for? The thing about it is once you give up the sex, in most instances, a man changes.
Ooh, yeah. Oh.
It's just a fact. I wish I could tell you I was lying, but I'm not. The thing about it is a man knows when he meets a woman what compartment he's going to put her in. Mm-hmm. He knows off the rip, for the most part, what compartment where she's going to fit in his life.
Right. I believe.
So again, to answer your question, I wish I can say that a man is going to stay 100% the same after he gets what he wants. I can't say that. And if I got some brothers on here who disagree, I'll be glad to hear what they got to say. Very few men, listen to me good. I mean this with everything in me. Very few men, I've been a man for 63 years. Very few men are going to not have a change of some sort, because you got to realize in every relationship, there's a pattern set. Let me give you a good example of this. I want you to hear me on this. I got to tell this story. This is a true story. I remember a few years ago, it's probably like 10 years ago. I was talking to this young lady, friend of mine, not dating. I'm saying I was talking to a young lady who was dating this, watch this now, this bishop. I think it was a bishop or apostle. And they were dating. And so they were going to this workshop, or this conference rather, in another state. And they both went. They were, dating, engaged, or whatever. They weren't really engaged. Well, they were on their way to being engaged. And so they went to the conference, stayed like 3 nights. They stayed in the same room. And so because I'm just a transparent person with people. So when they came back, I said, hey, how was the conference? She said, oh, it was great. And so truth of the matter is, so I hope y'all don't mind me being just blunt with you. So I said, well, so y'all stayed in the same room and nothing happened? She said, no, Rev, nothing happened. I said, listen to me. I said, you telling me a man went with you a whole weekend and didn't try nothing? Didn't hug you, didn't kiss you, didn't try to rub you or nothing? No, he ain't do that. You know what I told her? This is a bishop. This is an apostle now, whatever he is. I said to her in no uncertain terms, I said, he's gay. I want y'all to hear what I just said now. Now, I'm not saying all men. Now, this is a bishop. This is an apostle. You would think that, he just honoring God. He ain't going to try nothing. Listen to me good, people. When I told her that, she said, no, you shouldn't say that. I said, listen to me. I've been a man all my life. Ain't no man finna go on no trip with no woman, 3 days in the room, and ain't gonna try something. Kiss you, hug you, rub you, touch you, whatever. Amen. Like, I ain't got just say this is a crazy preacher here. But listen to me. So they got married. This is a true story. God knows I'm telling the truth. This is a true story. They got married. She had to end up going out of town for one of her family members' graduation. I don't want to get too detailed. Somebody might figure out who I'm talking about. So had to go out of town, and lo and behold, her daughter had to use his phone while she was gone because the daughter was still in school, didn't go. Ran up on some pictures of some male private parts in his phone. When she came back, put him out the house. They got divorced because they only hadn't been married at that time 2 months. And it took her 3 months to call me back and say, you know what? You were right. I said, listen, I've been a man all my life. Now, I'm not saying all men are like that. But about 99% of them, that's a real man. Oh, listen, he gonna try something. So yeah. To answer your question, truthfully now, I can't say if a man is gonna change. I can't say I can tell y'all what to look for to know he's gonna be committed. I can't. I honestly can't tell you what to look for other than that if he's been consistent, if he's supporting you, if he's helping to push the purpose out of you, if he's trying to help, I always tell people you want to find somebody who helps bring the best out of you. If he's doing those type of things, yes. Now, but that's far few and in between that you find guys who are trying to bring the best out of a woman, who are looking for out for the welfare of the woman, who are trying to make sure the woman is good. Now you got some guys who can play that role, but can you meet a woman's intellectual? Can you stimulate a woman intellectually? Can you stimulate a woman in her spirit person? So right. If to summarize it, because I don't want to do all the talking, to summarize it, the Bible says that there were spirit, soul, and body. And a man needs to be able to hit every part of those.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, even like you said, we see the flag. I'm sure she picked up on something, and she just wanted it to be something that it wasn't. And then, of course, look how long you said it took her to come back. Shame and guilt. Can you imagine what that would have been like? And it's not always that that deep sometimes, but
sure.
You go into things thinking one way, and then it blows up in your face, and then now you got to deal with people knowing your business, and then you carrying shame and guilt, and it just makes for an exhausting headspace. But I would say, like when we get to that point, now I know it's probably something self but when we get to that point,
okay,
what is it that needs to click? Like, we need to always have this in the back of my head, like it when you get that funny feeling, right? Okay, something is not right, but we override it.
Right.
Self and flesh is like, he can change. We'll change him, or we could make it so good that he'll be good. But what do we need to carry in our mind if we don't have it? To say, okay, no, we're not doing this. You know what it is. This is what it is. To not rewrite the narrative. To not distort the reality. To make it make sense for us in that moment.
Yeah, the key thing to it is really once you see let's say it like this, once you see the caution sign, do what the caution sign says, yield, slow down. Because if you don't slow down, then you're going to run into the red flag. And I tell women this all the time. Women have a sixth sense. I don't care what nobody says. Women have a sixth sense. God gave us 5, but he gave a woman 6. A woman has a natural intuition to know when something is not right. And in the words of Keith Sweat, something just ain't right. Y'all know that, but guess what? You pass right through that yield sign and go straight to the stop sign. And then you go to the red flag, rather, then you go to flags on fire. And at that point, it's too late.
Put it out. And we'll try to put it out. But you have this saying, and I stole it. You say, until he puts a ring on it. not your man. It's just your turn. Now, look, that's a whole sermon by itself. So, if you're in a committed relationship, but not married yet, you're on your way to be married, can you not claim that person? Because, I mean, what I've learned from my experience is the ring don't always change nothing. 'Cause
That
for Nicole, the only thing that changed for me was my last name.
I
And
agree.
I'm telling God's honest truth. The only thing that changed for me was my last name. So, explain to us what that quote means. Break it down.
Well, when I say until he puts a ring on it, he's not your man, it's just your turn. Actually, I have my whole manuscript over there. It's getting ready to go to the printer probably by the end of the week. That's the title of the book. Well, the title of the book is titled He's Not Your Man, It's Just Your Turn.
Mm.
And really, the gist of the book is to help ladies to understand men have to be able to get to the place where they come to the reality of trying to, let's say it like this. I want men to come to the reality of telling a woman what his real motives are, right? And I want women rather, who read this book to have some ideas, some nuggets of what to look for to know when it's just your turn and he's not your man. So to answer your question, which I'm hoping I'm answering your questions, is this right here. When I talk about until he puts a ring on it, he's not your man, it's just your turn. It does not take long for a man to know what he wants. It just doesn't.
I believe that.
And the thing about it is we'll, and I say men will come up with all types of it. I'm just let me take it slow right now. And not only that, but men even have a problem giving a woman a title. So what are we doing? Well, we're just kicking it right now. What that mean? What does that mean?
Not children.
Right. So the thing about it, if you see that a man has a problem giving you a title, that's a flag. You don't want to have, who wants to be in a relationship where you're guessing what we're doing?
Exactly.
But you got so many people who are trying to figure out, what are we doing? We're in a situationship. We did a video on that one time. Situationship or relationship. I mean, who wants to be in a relationship where you don't know, who wants to be on a job, you don't even know what your role is?
You just taking up space.
Right.
Taking up space, waiting for somebody to say, okay, well, to do that.
Is anybody putting any comments in here? I want to see some comments. But he telling a lie. No, I want to see the comments. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let's talk about communication, vulnerability, and expression your emotions. Now, in your book, If It's Love, It Will Last. You say most men have a hard time expressing love because of how they were raised or what they were taught to do. So, talk to us about what you did to break that cycle, because I know you said before that you didn't have that growing up. You didn't hear that often.
Right.
How did you break that cycle, and what can men do to fix that? Because the ones out here now, they don't know how to open up, and maybe they've never experienced a safe space,
Right.
or it's just how they were raised. Like, suck it up, man up, just don't cry, and all this foolishness is what it is. So how did you break the cycle?
Well, here's the truth. Quite naturally, I tell this story all the time because it's true. Most boys, when they're young, 4, 5, 6 year old, 3, 4, whatever it is, somebody's going to tell them, big boys don't cry. You fall off your bike, bust your head to the white meat, and they tell me don't cry.
Right.
So what you've done, what we have done, listen to me again now, what we have done, we have caused men not to express their emotions. That's an emotion. I'm hurting.
Right.
But you're telling me don't express that now. Or you grew up in a house where you didn't see your parents hugging each other, didn't see your parent or hear your parents say, I love you, proud of you, all that stuff like I just talked about on the Bible study. So you grow up with that same mindset because I always say the habits of the parents generally become the hangups of the children. So what caused me to change is a couple of things. One, I had this thought process when I was a teenager. I said, man, if I ever have children, I'm not going to ever allow my kids to be able to say, I ain't never heard my daddy say I love you. I ain't never heard my daddy say I'm proud of you. Great parents, but at the same time, they just weren't shown that. And quite naturally, they passed it down to us, so we didn't show it. But I made a conscious decision that I was not going to be one of those fathers who was ashamed to say, I love you. My son is 36. When I went to Atlanta to see him a few months ago, him and my grandson, we do the same thing at 36 years old that I did when he was 4 or 5, 6 or 7, 15, 16. As I bear hug him and I kiss him on his cheek. He's 36 years old. Do you think he'd be embarrassed when I kiss him on his cheek? No. You know why? Because he's accustomed to that.
Right.
So here's where I'm going. So what also caused me to be able to break that cycle is I understand scripture. Now I got to go Bible because, it's just in me. Scripture says in Ephesians that a man ought love his wife, his significant other, as Christ loved the church. But here's another key component that women overlook. You're trying to date a man that don't even know how Christ loved the church. So how is he going to love you? How is he going to express his love to you when he don't even know how Christ expressed his love for the church? So if I had to go a little further, that a man who understands the relationship between God and his church, let's say like this, understands worship, understands that he ain't got no problem lifting his hands, crying, saying, I love you, Lord, whatever. He ain't gonna have no problem saying that to his spouse,
right?
His significant other. No. But that relationship has to be built. And so again, when a woman is trying to date a man who don't have a relationship, and it ain't got to be, everybody has, I'll say this because everybody on here is not a Christian. Everybody on here, there might be some people on here who are Muslims, who are Nation of Islam, who may be a different religion. That doesn't mean that they can't express their love to their God. Now hopefully ain't no satanic God, but you know what I'm saying, to a point where they understand how to express themselves. Now, one thing I like about the brothers in the nation, they have mad respect for their women. Listen to me. The Nation brothers have mad respect for their women. They protect them. They're loyal. For the most part, the ones who are really in it, it's kind of like, different in the church. You got brothers who are in the church, but they ain't in the church. You got brothers in the nation, but they ain't in the nation. They're not adhering to the rules and the things that's being taught.
Yeah, and growing up like that, it breeds a lot of dysfunction in different areas of your life as well, and especially in the sex area. So let's talk about the link between not being taught the love, how to love properly, and the link between that and unhealthy sexual appetite that's learned, which of course probably usually leads to unfaithfulness in relationships. Because I mentioned in the book also that they were taught not to be satisfied with just one person. So if that's the case, how can a man change his mindset if he grew up that way, how can he change his mindset about such a dysfunctional learned behavior?
In the words of Travis Green, he's intentional, never failing. A man has to be able to be intentional about killing that sexual spirit. Again, when we were young boys, somebody asked us, what's your girlfriend name, man? 5 years old, 6 years old. I remember watching Steve Harvey show Big Shot, Little Big Shot one time. Little boy on there, about 7, 8 years old. I think he was a singer or something. Man, I know the little girl will be after you. What's your girlfriend name? Every little boy for the most part will be asked that question, right? So that's, 5, 6, 7 years old. Then you get to be a little older teenager. Now, the question ain't no longer what's your girlfriend name. The question is how many girlfriends you got, boy? Mm-hmm. I can't say that for all men, but I was asked that question. How many girlfriends you got? So now in my mindset, I'm saying, oh man, now I got to have a bunch of girlfriends. So that caused men, and I'm not saying all, but that caused a good portion of men to have a sexually undisciplined appetite. Yeah. And as I say to women, listen to me good now. And marriage don't change that.
It do not.
And the thing about it is, a man has to be intentional about developing that relationship with God and say, God, there are just some things I don't want to keep doing. And being unfaithful and being, like this, that, and the other is one of them. Listen to me, that doesn't go anywhere because a man is married. It just doesn't.
It don't. They just bury it just right above the surface. It's still right there, waiting to peek its head out. But it doesn't. It doesn't go away.
Now you got some guys who have been celibate their whole life until they got married. God bless them. That's good. They ain't got that they don't have that to worry about. Right. And a brother has to really be embedded in the word of God and say, God, I want to be celibate until I'm married. I want to abstain, as the scripture says. Now, a good friend of mine, Brother Corey Holman, he and his wife they were both, abstaining and never had sex until they got married in their early 20s. God bless them. I love that. But that ain't the story of most of the people I know. Matter of fact, he's about one of the only ones I know, a African American brother who stayed abstained until he was married. I commend him.
I don't know one either.
Let's just talk real.
And then that goes to, and the ones that do want to make some type of change, there are a lot of men say, okay, I do not want to be like my father, or I don't want to be like my parents. And I find that the people who say that the most end up being just like them. Like some men and women who come from family with parents have been there several times, where they have outside kids, or they see multiple partners, like a revolving door. It's always somebody new. And even in the old age, and they end up just being just like the people they didn't want to be. But would you say that is just really just a generational curse, or is it really just a selfish part of people? Because we have choices. Even though we have learned that behavior, we still have choices. So what do you think about it?
Well, the issue with that, Nicole, is this right here. When a person says, I don't want to be like my dad, or I don't want to be like my mom, the question is, what does that look like? And most people are not able to transition their thought process because they don't know what that looks like. They're not trying to seek out somebody who says, this is how you not be like your dad. So a good example of that is, say, for instance, like with me, right? You literally have to tell yourself that this is what I'm going to do. You can't just say, well, I'm not going to be like my dad. Okay, so what does that look like? It's kind of like a person saying, well, I want to stop shopping so much, or I want to stop doing X, Y, Z. So what do I need to do in order to stop that? There's never a plan put in place. So I can say all day long, I don't want to be like my mom and daddy. Okay, that sounds so nice. But what's the plan? He who fails the plan plans to fail. And the reason why they repeat the cycle is because they don't know what that looks like. Let's take marriage, for instance, right? We say, well, when I get married, I don't want to be like my parents were. But you don't have nothing in your mind that shows you what that's not supposed to look like.
Right.
So for me, my thing was, okay, when I have children, I'm not going to ever allow my son to say he never heard me say I love you. So what do you got to do, Lawrence? Whenever your son gets born, whenever your daughter gets born, you've got to start telling them from day one. You got to create a habit of something. If I don't want to be like my mom, who's an alcoholic, I'm not saying my mom was. My mom never drunk anything. And she may have, she had wine later on in life. But the point I'm making is, if I know that I don't want to be an alcoholic, then I need to either hang around some people who don't drink, or if I'm around it, I need to make sure that I'm not, because I tell people that here's the thing that I always say to people, and I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but here's the thing I say to people, that what we have to realize is that when you think about something that is that's addictive to you, right? Everybody has a vice. Temptation is never temptation until you're tempted by what tempts you.
Right.
That's something I've been saying for years. Temptation is never temptation until you're tempted by what tempts you. So a brother who grew up with an undisciplined sexual spirit, he doesn't need to be around women, a lot of women. And what I mean by that is if he knows his vice is women, he needs to try to hang around a place. Well, even if he's dating somebody, stick close to your wife, stick close to your girlfriend, because you can't be in a single place, a place where a lot of single women are, because it's going to trigger you to feel like, okay, let me see if I still got that game.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of the beast. And again, in order to not be like mama, daddy, or whoever, in order to have a successful marriage relationship, because Tracy talks about how in her family, she's never seen on either side of her family a successful marriage. I'm sure in her mind, she said, I ain't gonna be like my mom and daddy. But guess what? It happened because she didn't tell herself what that looked like.
Right. Okay, so we sometimes get a little confused on roles, if there is really such a thing. And in your book, reference the Samaritan woman, and then you were talking about roles and what that we as women have no business doing certain things. And I want to read this part. That was really good. He said the first lesson that I learned from this story about the Samaritan woman she had no business going to the well to get water in the first place. In that day and time, the duty of getting water from the well belonged to the men. Women become so engulfed in trying to make sure that men are happy and comfortable, they begin to do things they have no business doing. Likewise, men, you have no business allowing relationships to become so comfortable and routine that you have the woman doing things that she has no business doing. I believe this woman was in a predicament because she had allowed herself to deal with issues that she would normally have dealt with, and because she didn't know who she was. So what I got from that was you were saying, this is on the part of not knowing who you are, that we allow people to dictate, whether verbally or non-verbally, what we should be doing in order to stay in a relationship.
Yeah. Well, here's the truth again. Let me sit up on this one. Is that it's sad to say, but a lot of women have become, I don't want to use this word, but I got to use it. It's almost like they've become seemingly desperate, and they put up with things that they normally wouldn't put up with in relationships, right? So for instance, a man, now when a person, when two people first meet, quite naturally, things are well. But here's where I'm going with this, right? I can't stand to see a woman pump gas and a man sitting in the car. I don't understand how a woman can let a man stay all night, eat up her groceries, and then she gotta struggle to find a way to get gas for the car or to get food in the house. So, and I'm talking about things like that. So to me, a man's job is to provide, protect, so on and so forth. And so when you start now, quite naturally in this day and age, domestic stuff like washing the dishes and taking out the trash, that's both of their jobs. There ain't no man job, no woman job. Men these days, they still go on that old school stuff. Man, both people working now. It's okay for you to take the trash out. It's okay for you to wash the dishes. It's okay for you to put the clothes in the washing machine and dry and fold them up. That's okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that. They don't make you less of a man. But right. Whatever works for a person. But I will say this. I do not think that a woman should be at a place where she's doing for... I'm trying to say this stuff nicely, where she's not just say like this, where she's putting up with things that she normally wouldn't put up with.
Right.
About the best way I'm gonna put that without really make people think I'm about really crazy.
and we do that sometimes. Guilty to keep what we had. The whole
right.
We had. Right. Like, okay, if I don't want to do it, but I'm gonna do it if I want to stay in this relationship.
That's it.
gonna do it. I'm gonna suck it up and be mad the whole time doing it. And then we fight in our head sometimes, like, are you really doing this? And then the other side is like, yeah, well, we want to have a man or we want to have a woman. And it's like that song from that Betty Wright song. She messed up a whole lot of folks. About having a piece of man is better than no man. And our folks ran with that and made it almost Bible. And we had that warped thinking, and then to unlearn that, like, it's okay to be by yourself, but that's something you have to work on yourself anyway.
No question.
We do put up stuff that we wouldn't normally do just to hold on to what we have or to not be alone or stuff like that. But that's something that you'll have to figure out. And I think it'll hit you. I mean, it did for me. I can't have to come to that understanding, like, okay, this is not working. This is not how life's supposed to look. This is not what you're supposed to be doing. So it'll happen naturally, I believe, for people just at different stages, or something drastic will have to happen for them to be like, okay, no, we're not doing this no more.
Well, for instance, there are people who may talk about, well, we go 50-50 on everything. And again, there's a number of factors that go into whether I even buy into that or not, truthfully, because at the end of the day, if I'm making 70,000 hypothetically and the other person making 30, 50-50 ain't really 50-50. And I don't tell nobody how to run your household. That's on them. But the point I'm making is I just think that there are some things that, now quite naturally, I think you all should be working together if you're in a marriage, working together to build something, no question. But I think at the end of the day, things have just changed so much as it relates to what women put up with. And that's probably the best way to put it, in order to try to, maintain the relationship, maintain the marriage. People go way in the hole in debt. Women go way in the hole with debt with men, just to try to hold on to a relationship. I wish I really had time to really deal with these things individually, but we've got to get to the place as it relates to brothers, as it relates to men, of really respecting, honoring our queens. Because as I tell people all the time, for ladies and for men, if we don't get back to honoring our men and our women, our queens and our kings, we're going to continue to have a community that continues to be eradicated,
Right.
Which is already there.
And it heads even further south.
Yes, no question.
That just goes to what you expect, also what you expect your mate, and putting those cards on the table. And most men, I don't know why they think we're complicated, and we're really not. We're really just simple. It's a simple thing. The simple thing, and I would venture to say that most women feel that way as well. But for me, I expect and need a man if he can't keep his word, nothing else is gonna matter. Because if you can't keep your word, that means I can't count on you to show up. I can't count on you to do X, Y, Z. You're not gonna be there when I need you. But it's just something attractive about a man that keeps his word. And I don't mean attractive like physical attractive.
I understand. Right.
There are different levels of intimacy that has nothing to do with sex. But I just think if you can keep your word, okay, that means you have some type of integrity about yourself. You're focused, or you have priorities in order. But if you can't, like I said, if you can't keep your word, I mean, what else is there to say? What else is there to do? That's a red flag for me. So talk about how men not just keeping their word. What can they do to meet the expectation? They're on the table. It's not like they're guessing. Let's say we tell them what we need. What's your advice for men on how to make that happen and to keep it going?
Well, first, a man has to want the relationship in order for him to even think about expectations, right? So here's the issue. Here is a real issue. For so long, men have not had to be held accountable to great expectations. Now, I want y'all to hear me good on this. Now, what do I mean by that? Here's what I mean by that. Women have made it so easy through the years. I ain't saying all, but most women have made it so easy for men to get what they want, which is sex, until they have a hard time dealing with a woman now who has what they call high expectations. And they're not high expectations at all. They're just basic expectations that they never had to meet. I'm going to say that one more time. Most men who run into a woman now who has standards, who has expectations, the truth of the matter is they look at it as she asking for too much. No. You just haven't had to run into some sisters who held you liable or who held you accountable for your actions. And so now when a woman says, I want truth, I want trust, I want transference, I want transparency, they ain't got to deal with that because they listen, the next woman gonna give me what I want without having to go through all this.
Yeah. But you know what, Pastor, even if they have everything they want, they getting everything they want, they getting everything they need, they find their way to like them rabbit dogs. They find their way in the streets, even if I'm not just sexual, of course, but the spouse or the mate is meeting all their needs. So outside of the excuse of, well, this is how I was raised, that's what I saw when I was growing up, and I just think it's just selfishness. But what prompts a man outside of access to risk everything he has for a side chick?
The key word that you just said, access. So for instance, like you said, a man can have, you got to go back to what I said initially, right? A man has a hunting spirit. And because of that hunting spirit that he picked up when he was a teenager, what ends up happening is when he has everything that he wants, a lot of times, just to be totally honest with you, you can be dropping it like it's hot, doing everything he wants done. But listen to me good. A man still feels like I need to know I still got it. So he wants, my brother who's a year older than me, he says that same stuff. Man, I still need to know I got it. He married, but it's a mental thing for a man. He just wants to feel like I'm still the man. And the point I'm making is, I'm not saying all. Y'all don't ever think I'm saying every last man is like that, because there are some men who appreciate it, who are not going to go outside. But again, women can make it so easy to get access until a man feels like I'll take a chance.
Yeah, but even if the access is available, and it's very available, I see it a lot. I remember having a conversation with a guy, and I asked him about cheating, and his response was, he provides everything for his wife. She wants for nothing. The bills are paid, the house is taken care of, he's in place when he needs to be in place. So he is entitled. So when he step out, that's his payment for making sure that she's good. And he was dead serious. So
that's jacked up thinking there, though. I don't go along with that now. That's
the type of mentality that's out there. And we're, as single people, that's what we have to fight against. But really, that's how some men think. Like, if I do everything she don't want for nothing, I should be able to do what I want on the side.
Yeah, I don't go along with that now. I for me, I'm gonna go along with what I feel is truth, but there's no truth to that at all. And here's the sadder part, is that if the woman is comfortable enough to go for that, shame on her. I mean, if she knows that's what he's doing, that just shows a woman who has no values about her own self to put up with that. In all honesty, that's just not what a woman who has security within herself, a woman who feels good about herself, is going to allow herself to continue to be, relegated to. That's just not healthy. That's an unhealthy person, and that's also an unhealthy relationship.
Yeah. I'll read this comment. Maya says, you're absolutely right. The desperation and thirst out here in Atlanta is ridiculous. Ratio of women to men is 10-1. So I guess the woman put up with it, keep a man, like he said. Also, most of the women in Atlanta are highly educated and make more money than the men. So that puts it. Go on, girl.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter is, I would probably venture to say it's more than 10-1 in Atlanta. Oh God, it's probably like 100-1. Because not trying to be funny, I don't knock nobody's sexual preference, but you got so many men up there who they don't want no woman, and so it's more than 10-1. Let's just be honest about that. But the point I'm making is, it is true, like she said in the comment, that it's difficult. Let me tell y'all something. I shared this with my sister the other week. It is extremely difficult now. I feel sorry for women who have to find a serious brother in this day and time. Oh God, I feel bad for sisters now.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and I wish I was talking about guys in their 20s, 40s and 50s, and I'm talking about guys in their 60s and 70s still trying to run game. I'm like, sisters, y'all don't have a chance. And I don't mean in the sense don't have a chance, but I'm saying it's extremely difficult out here for a sister to find a decent brother who wants something, who ain't out here to try to run game, this, that, and the other. But can I tell y'all the truth? Can I tell you the real truth? The truth is, you may not like this, but trust me when I tell you, this is going to be the absolute truth. The truth is, women have gotten it to that point. What do you mean? I'm glad you asked. I'm getting ready to explain it. For all of these years, listen to me good, the average woman has made it so easy for a man to get sex. Why is he now gonna stick around 6 months, 9 months, a year, and not get something when he's been doing it all his life? Listen to me now. The average woman didn't wait no 2, 3, 4, 5 months to give up no sex. So if a man's been doing that all his life, he knows he can go and get it when he, nowadays. Let me tell you how crazy it is nowadays. A brother will mention on the first date, girl, I sure like to get with you sexually. They say stuff like that. I hear people saying that. And I'm saying, this is how a man's thinking is nowadays. He's that bold that he comes out and says, yeah, girl, I can do so much for you. I'll make you go crazy. All that kind of crazy stuff, because he's had a history of being able to get it when he wants to get it. And some women gonna fall for it. So why is he going to sit there? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. So why is he going to sit there and listen to a person say, well, this is how I want it. This is what I'm expecting. And now he can go across the street to the next girl who ain't asking for all that.
So, but at what age do men come out the streets? Like,
at what age? I wish I could answer that. I'm talking. My sister was telling me married guys be approaching them in their 60s.
Yeah.
I like married. She said, man, listen, married. She said, I have more married men coming at me than single.
They're very bold. It's like,
oh gosh, I'm like, sis, really?
Bold. I'm talking about bold. Even on social media, bold. Like, no respect and no honor to your mate. That's like just went out the window. But when you get into that you deal with that you have repeatedly hurt, and you're just being dishonored and lied to and all this. Now, at what point do you say enough is enough? Now, I'm not into people can change, right? Okay. But something like that, I don't see if that's how he is, that's in his character. I don't see how, okay, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna be the man you want me to be. No, I don't. Why do y'all get that way? I'm you, but men like when it's time to show up, okay, because I'm about to go out the door. Now they see, okay, we leave. You know, you still playing in the streets or whatever. And then they want to all of a sudden be the good guy. Why do y'all do that? Like, why do y'all waste so much time?
Well, I mean, I think that what happens a lot of times is a man, in most instances, is going to continue to do what he does until he feels like he's about to lose them for real.
Right.
I wish I could say why they do it. Most times because they don't want nobody else to have you. Just to be honest with you. But again, I'm actually starting next month, right? I'm doing this thing called Cards, CRDS, Cigars and Conversations, right? I'm going to be getting together with some brothers and helping some brothers. We're going to get together, have some conversations rather, as it relates to fellas. We got to do better. We cannot continue to leave our sisters out here to dry, to have no good men to pick from. We got to do better. That's a must. Think about it. All of these single, educated, money-making women who are just looking for a man to do the right thing. Right. We shouldn't be in this position as a people. We just shouldn't. And like you said earlier, I tell guys this all the time, women are very, very easy to get along with if you give them attention, communication, and affection. Because if you give them attention, communication, and affection, and loyalty coming right behind it.
Right. But see, and then when they don't do that, and John Doe down the street say, oh, you cute. Now you mad. But you ain't telling me I'm cute. So how you getting upset of something that you could be doing for free?
I just told a brother this the other week. I said, listen, man. I said, attention for a woman is very, very critical. I said, because he's like, I see when my wife has a new hairstyle. I see when she has this, but I never tell her. I said, you are absolutely doing yourself a disservice. I said, because if you don't tell her, somebody going to tell her. And then when they grab her attention, now you're going to be mad. I said, so bro, do yourself a favor. I said, I don't care if you notice a new pair or whatever. I said, say something. And let me tell you what I did. So what I ended up doing, I had a couple of friends on the line. I put both of the guys. I said, man, tell this brother what kind of advice I gave you. Because he talking about how his relationship, his marriage is just so amazing. And he said, man, you better listen to Mr. Knight, man, because Mr. Knight be telling you the truth, man. He told me to go buy a little card, go, put it in the car in the morning before she leaves. Just, text it throughout the day. I'm giving them all these little tips. Say, man, do that consistently. You ain't gonna have no problem.
Right.
The point I'm making is we're gonna have some cards, conversations, and some communication. Cards, cigars, and communication. We gotta help these brothers, man. We got to help these sisters to understand there's some good men out here. All of them ain't like that. So I gotta, do my part. That's why even on my name there, you see the Red Flag Coach. That's my platform is coming out in June, and it's called the Red Flag Coach. I'm going to be giving a lot of information as it relates to relationships, what to look out for, what kind of questions to ask. I'm going to be doing some in-depth, raw conversations as it relates to relationships, because if we don't change the dynamics of our community, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. And we're already in trouble.
And that's actually our my last question for you. What was your take on red flags? Like, what are they, and why do we ignore them? Why do we ignore them so much?
Well, again, I think we ignore them because we're hoping that we can change the person, or we're hoping the person to change. But most time we're hoping we can change the person. I mean, I saw red flags, plenty of them. Like, oh man, once she be around me, she'll see and she'll catch on. Man, please. You can be like the dramatics. What you see is what you get. You're going to be just like that, because what you see is what you get. I remember this old man told me one time, he said, listen, he said, you can't change the spots on a leopard and you can't change the stripes on a zebra. What you see is what you get. Right. And that's really the truth. But again, women overlook red flags. Men do too. Men see them fatal attractions, but because they want what they want, they keep going. And then they get somebody like, oh man, I didn't know this girl was that crazy. Yeah, that's true.
On that, some people love drama. Some
Yeah.
crazy people like, oh, she crazy. That's my kind of person. But that was good. So this cards and things, that just for men? That's just gonna be just for men?
Well, for right now, yeah. I mean, yeah, for right now, it's just gonna be men because I really want some brothers to come together and really help us to become better men, better fathers, better friends, better communicators. Because men really just don't know how to communicate. They don't. Listen to me. Men really, for the most part, don't know how to truly communicate. And there's a reason behind that. And so I want to even help us because women got to also understand that men have to have a very, 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 very safe space to be vulnerable enough to even share some of their, feelings and thoughts and all that stuff. And so we got to help brothers to understand it's okay to share your feelings, your emotions, but women got to understand, hey, I got to give my man a safe space because if he don't, he ain't gonna ever talk.
Right. Got to have that safe space and not be so judgmental.
Right.
It'll turn them off real easy.
Because if you got a man that'll open up to you, you're gonna have a man that'll be committed to you.
That's good.
Well, that's a fact there now. You find a man that'll open up to you and share some of his secrets or whatever, you'll find a man that feels comfortable enough to be committed.
That's good. That's good. Well, that is gonna wrap it up for tonight. We done hit our hour mark.
Okay.
For your yes, your wisdom and sharing your experience, I greatly appreciate.
Call me anytime.
You guys can follow me on Facebook, Home Speak. You can follow me on Spotify. I download episode every Wednesday. And you can also go to my website, Beauty for Ashes 8, that's for 8.com. And you can also go to Amazon, my book that I have right here. Beauty for Ashes, the story behind the breakthrough. So, Pastor, share with us before you leave what your businesses are, how they can
Actually, quite naturally, you can find me on Facebook under Lawrence Knight. Also, you can find me under My Relationship Movement on Facebook, as well as YouTube, My Relationship Movement on Instagram, myrelationship.com, myrelationshipmovement.com. So again, let me go back over My Relationship Movement on Facebook. You can find me under my own personal name. My brand will be out next month. My platform will be out next month. And so if you want to email me even now, it's redflagcoach@gmail.com. 1 redflagcoach@gmail.com. I'm One Red Flag Coach. And I have a couple of books. One book is called If His Love It Will Last. It's a book I wrote a while back. The book is about relationships. You got to get this in your library if you don't have it. If His Love It Will Last. Hit me up. It's actually on our website, myrelationshipmovement.com. It's on there. And then I wrote a book that's just out. I haven't really promoted it yet, launched it yet. It's called Born for Greatness. And this book is about helping us understand that we were born to stand out, not to fit in. Right. And then also my other book that's going to the printer by the end of the week, preferably, or beginning of next week, I should say, is called He's Not Your Man, It's Just Your Turn. And then I have another one that should be going to the press before the end of July. It's called Stop Playing the Role When You Don't Have the Ring.
Hurting all our feelings.
Stop playing the role when you don't have the ring.
Oh, that's good. Oh, your eyewear.
Oh, yeah. I have eye frames. Tracy, give me a couple pair of your glasses right quick. I have a line of eye frame glasses called Identity. And listen to me, I have some of the nicest frames that you ever want to see. I've got over 300 different styles, and they are extremely, very, very nice. All you got to do is take them to your optometrist and get your prescription put in. It's very, very easy to do. These are high quality frames at low prices. High quality frames, low prices. We got frames like these. If you want a little bling on them, we got these. Cat eye with the bling on them. We have different colors. Tracy got about 7 or 8 pair. Bless her heart. I have one young lady who lives in Sylvester. Believe it or not, she has purchased 12 pair of frames.
Wow.
12. Because the prices are so good, you can't beat it. So if y'all want it, hit me up, oneredflagcoach@gmail.com. The number 1, redflagcoach@gmail.com. I'm going to put it in the chat. I appreciate being on here tonight. I hope something has been said tonight that has helped all of you good people to understand that, we got to do better. That's all I'm going to say.
That's right. All right, good people. That's all we have on tonight. Like you said, I pray something that has been said that will help you to better understand relationships and what it may bring. May healthy relationships be your portion. Be blessed. And always remember, you are appreciated, needed, valued, heard, and most of all, you are loved. Every day you give you beauty for ashes. I'm your host, Nicole. I'll talk to y'all later.
People,
Good night.
appreciate it.